Joining me to break down what the President has just said in this address is our regular US contributor, Michael Ware. I guess, first of all, Michael, we're going to be very cognizant of the fact that that wasn't addressed, not for us in Australia, but a domestic one. And Joe Biden here is sending this bill to Congress, and we should be wary that there are plenty of Republicans that are losing the appetite to continue funding, in particular, what's happening for Ukraine and its continued war against Russia and defence of the Russian invasion. I wonder if this will all sort of be tied together and make it harder for them to oppose it, in effect, because it will include assistance for Israel.
Well, that's a great question because, yes, tying those two conflicts together does make it much more complicated for Republicans to oppose additional support, particularly during this civil war within the Republican Party, where they can't even elect a speaker for the House of Representatives. But what I'll say about the address that we've all just heard, and I'm still catching up and trying to digest it myself because the president literally just finished. This could have been a speech made by Ronald Reagan. President Biden is trying to remind Americans that they can be the leaders of the free world and that America is a great beacon as an idea, and that should not be abandoned, because he's trying to tell the public here in the United States that what happens over there, whether it's Ukraine or whether it's in Israel, still matters here. And he even referred to World War II when he said that America remains the arsenal of freedom. If you recall, even before Pearl Harbor, even before America became involved in World War II, the United States was sending enormous military support to Great Britain and to others to maintain the fight, even before America got into that fight. One of the other things that I took of note that you also mentioned, it's something that the president referenced yesterday. We have a conflict right now between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. There are military solutions, but none of them are good. What the president referred to is the ultimate solution. And he still believes that's the two-state solution, a Palestinian state. But at the end of the day, he's reminding America that America's adversaries, America's enemies are watching what America is about to do right now with Israel and with Ukraine. And obviously, he's talking about China, even though he didn't mention them. He indeed referenced the Indo-Pacific, which is us. So in many ways, this was a presidential call to arms.
Yeah, well, when you allude to the fact that, China's always in the room in that sense, I suppose, it's this thought that was the US already stretched in support for Ukraine and munitions and funding, and then you add Israel onto it, and Joe Biden essentially, when he puts this bill up, will be hoping Congress says this is a priority. We're not stretched. We can still provide this world leadership, albeit under more financial duress, if not the pure munitions side of things as well. He talks of a two-state solution, Michael, but I mean, it feels as though that's possibly further away than ever. One, that I just can't see Hamas being part of that, and I guess that was always hard to see. But I can't imagine any sort of negotiation going on with Hamas. And then even what we're seeing in the West Bank with these mass protests. Now, a lot of this seemed to have been fueled in part by the strike on the hospital. The evidence we've been told about is that this was not Israel. But are we going to see something concrete? We've heard about overhead images. Are we going to see something sort of concrete around, look, here's where the rocket initiates and here's where it comes down soon after? Would that, do you think, stop the protests, provide assurance for a lot of the Arabic world, or is this just going to be contested regardless?
Unfortunately, no matter how forensic the evidence that can be produced, whether it's by the Israeli Defense Force, by US intelligence, by Arab allies, Hamas has already won the Arab Street. Hamas has won the information war when it comes to that hospital strike. It doesn't matter what we say now. The Arab Street believes that that was an Israeli strike. So that's, I think, illustrates why President Biden is talking about much broader solution. It's not just one hospital strike. It's not just one battle. It's not just one war with Hamas. It's got to be something much greater. But to get to that thing that is greater, America must rise again to the challenge, as President Biden intoned, like they did in World War II. America, he's saying, has to resume true leadership in the Western world. And, as he says, he reminded the Israeli that, yes, you are a Jewish state and we stand by you forever, but you're also a democracy. And you follow the rule of law and you follow the rules of war. Because, during our forever wars after 9/11, I saw this time and time and time again. Once we start compromising our values in war, once we start committing alleged war crimes, that's when our enemies start to win. So he's calling for a higher standard, and he's asking the American people to follow him and for Congress to provide the funds. And right now, that literally can't be done while the Republican Party is at war with itself.
Yeah, and that speaker issue you alluded to, I think you make a good point around urging restraint, but at the same time never trying to equate what Hamas did with anything that Israel would do, given the pure terror of those initial attacks. Michael, we appreciate your thoughts. We'll let you get on and go through the rest of that speech, a bit there in it as well, in particular for the domestic landscape you'd be more familiar with. Well,